next, how to sound academic. Okay, so I think you have also answered this question in the very first interactive part. So somebody said, oh, you have to be formal, and you need to use proper nouns, so probably technical terms, and you need to sound impersonal, so it's not like you are expressing your personal feelings. So if you write very formal way and technical way, and you can sound more authoritative. Because when you are writing a paper or writing anything, you want to know that, or you want to let the readers feel that you are right. You want to convince your readers. So using formal languages or technical terms will make you more authoritative. And for impersonal, if you are impersonal, then you sound more objective. Because we want to show that, oh, my findings are true in some circumstances. It's not just my personal views, not my personal my personal perspective. It's more objective. Okay, and there are 5 things that you can follow. So formality, objectivity, precision, hedging, and explicit links. I will talk about that one by one. You avoid contractions. We don't use don't, can't, won't, things like that. And we use more formal vocabulary words. For example, maybe the number of respondents. So you would say the number of respondents is insufficient. And you would not say, maybe you would not say, the number of respondents is not enough. So the previous one sounds more formal, right? So you can try to use words like this, but of course not enough can be used if they sound okay within your writing or sentences. And choose less emotional language. So I think someone also said it, not emotional. So for example, this result, we would not say, oh, this result is terrible, right? It sounds like what you will write on Facebook posts. So you say, oh, it's problematic. So it's less emotional, it sounds more objective. Use technical terms, so maybe something like phonological rules, something like this. More formal grammar structures, but not talking about making everything extremely complicated. So you can use something like this, maybe in academic writing. I think a lot of people like to do this, nominalization. They like to use nouns, right? So for example, I would say the ABC is very important, right? But I may change the way of writing in academic writing. I would say, oh, the importance of the ABC is undeniable, something like this. So you will use nouns you use more nouns in academic writing. Okay, so following these principles can make your writing more formal. How about this? How about objective? How about objectivity? So there are 3 things that you can do. The first one is emphasize ideas instead of people or feelings. So in academic writing, we don't really like to start the sentence with I or we or the author. Not very often, because we want to emphasize the ideas, the results, the facts. So there is an example sentence that you can take a look at. I believe the method is effective based on the findings. Now you can actually rephrase it and make it more objective by writing. The finding indicates the effectiveness of the method. So in this one, I also use nominalization, right? Effective, effectiveness. That's also one way to do it. Okay, next will be avoid evaluated words based on non-technical judgments. So these kind of evaluative terms, words, are usually adverbs or adjectives like sadly, disappointment, amazing. These sounds not objective. Okay, the last one is to use modality to allow room for others to disagree. So that's also another thing that we will talk about later. We try to be convincing, we try to be authoritative, but we don't want to be, we don't want to say that we are the true solution or the only solution. So we would say something like this. There is sufficient evidence to support the possibility that the teaching of phonetic symbols increases students' phonological awareness. So I am saying, personally, I think this is true. I think we should teach phonetic symbols. But I cannot say it in academic writing. So I would say, sufficient evidence, support the possibility that something is good. So that's a way that we write to make it more objective, and that's what you will see in an academic paper. Okay, the next one will be precision. So we want to be precise, right? We want to be accurate. So we use figures or values if possible. So we don't say, oh, there are several respondents. Just tell me 5 out of 27 respondents said. And try not to use some words that are very vague. I'm saying things that this thing is very important, this issue. Avoid making vague claims by citing sources. So if you are saying oh, something is very important, but you can't just say, I feel like it's important. But you will cite sources that also believe this is important. So you reference others' work or cite someone's sentences, words to support your ideas, and your claim will sound more convincing. Next one, number 4, hedging, or you can say this is so-called tentative language. So we do not want to be extremely absolute. So we do not say always the first. There's another example. How many students often make mistakes with the plural form? How many students always make mistakes with the plural form? So in any kind of research, you cannot prove that it's always like this. So you will not say this. Like the first, it's hard to say Mr. Johnson is the first one that proposed this idea. You don't know who is the first one. But it's very, very hard to prove that it's the first one. So we don't use words that are this absolute to avoid problematic writing in your paper. Okay, the last one is about explicit links. So we want connections. So use transition words to make connections clear. So for example, in addition, so these are very common in general writing, but you also need it in academic writing. But please remember, there are a lot of things that you need to cover in academic writing, but you don't have to always have transition words or transition signals in every sentence. Sometimes you will use too many transitions, and that sounds not very fluent in the writing.